gather for your delectation and delight this afternoon to perform to you an adaptation of Charles Dickens' classic Great Expectations. We've called it Haversham, and it's about 10 minutes long. But it is a story of woe. So could I have an R, please? Oh. Now, I must ask you that during this performance, it's very, very common. People do tend to start crying. When you do feel it's quite sad, do start to R. But also, it is a tale of love. Can anybody hear wolf whistle? Anybody wolf? That's very good. I had a howl there. That was lovely, thank you. But it's also a tale of bitterness and rage. And could I have a boo, please? Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you see something that you think is tragic, and that is likely during this performance, I want to hear an R. If you see something and you think, ooh la la, that's a bit of love, I'd like to have a wolf whistle. But equally, when you think there's a bit of bitterness and a bit of rage, I'd like you to boo! Particularly boo Miss Havisham and some of the other people that you're likely to meet on this whirlwind journey. But what I'd like to do now is I'd like to do an experiment with you. And in this experiment, I would like us to bring together all of these different emotions. And when I say 1, 2, 3, go, I want you to go with the misery, and then I want to go into the wolf whistle, and then I want to go into the boo. And so all at the, not at the same time, obviously that'd be ridiculous, but I want it to be, so it'll be because I can't wolf whistle, and then boo at the end. So are you ready? Really loudly, because I want us to bring a crowd together. 1, 2, 3. Lovely. Ladies and gentlemen, we are the Humbug Theatre Company. Please give us a big round of applause!
We often think of Dickens in the grubby streets below, where myriad undesirables about their way will go, the haunts of old Micawber, of Fagin's merry boys, the offices of Scrooge and Co, bereft of smiles and joy.
Where murderers like Sykes and fraudsters like Uriah Heep, through criminal activities their stolen fortunes seek. A filthy cast of thousands, muggers, burglars, drunks and fools, surround these grotesque characters. Charles Dickens' blemished jewels.
Yet not so far above the streets where all these people walk exists a world of china cups, of loftier, finer talk, of richer, ornate houses, where the rooms are kept quite clean by the servants hid beneath the stairs, unheard and never seen.
What wrong? What hurt? What violence here, within these spotless rooms, where all the knives are butter knives and all long sticks are brooms? What crimes, you ask, in here can match those on the streets outside?
We'll tell you of a death, a love, betrayal, and a bride, of anger, rage, and malice, wreaking havoc on a life, of rotten, twisted bitterness, as deadly as a knife. Where then to start with such a tale? With something small and mild. Where all such tales begin, my friends, we start here with a child.
Born into a loving family and privileged rank of class, too soon this child's life comes to an abrupt and tragic pass. Her mother dead.
I thought it was sad.
It's quite sad. Her mother dead. One half of this young girl's poor world is gone.
Yet time does pass, dark grief does pale, and life must carry on. The apple of her father's eye, his life, his heart, his breath, till once again her world is rocked. Again, another death.
What a high body count.
It was just as sad as the first one.
Again, another death.
My daughter, my child, our friend the cook, the lady's lost her life. But more than friend that lady was. My girl, she was my wife. A public love could never be. A servant? No, not done. One more thing you must know, my dear. Her little boy, my son.
Her world cast into uncertainty and pedestal removed, as racked with guilt for years lost, to his son his love he'd prove. Now every other moment he'd spend playing with the boy, and every other penny on some new game or toy, on spinning tops, a set of books, a puzzle or a pet, while the daughter suffered slowly as she slipped into neglect.
We did tell you there'd be tears, didn't we? No hunger, pain, nor outward sign accompanied this decay, but a silent inner longing, so that every night she'd pray for her father, that he might turn and remember her once more. but for long, long years each day continued like the one before.
And then finally there came a time when the boy had had his fill of guilt-induced indulgences. He lingered on until the father finally realised his extended grave mistake. But by now he left a spiteful, foul, ill-tempered, sodden rake.
The father's aching, disappointed heart thus now betrayed, he rapidly descended to a rather early grave. I heard a cheer.
There's a wolf whistle over here.
Miss Haversham, now mistress, the swift decision took to lay her father with his first wife, her dear mother, not the cook. Her father's heir, she now controlled the house and the estate, and her growing wealth and beauty was a most attractive bait to the local single fellows, but at the men she'd hardly look.
Until a dashing chap from London town her naive fancy took. Cultured, debonair, sophisticated, civilised, people could see that she was falling by the starlight in her eyes. For hours they'd sit talking over fancy cakes and tea with her...
Henry, no, you mustn't.
...to his witty repartee. The servants, they were dubious. Her friends, they had their fears. But Miss H started to imagine the long and future years where he'd always be her Henry and she'd no longer be a miss. Her thoughts were ever of his face and tender, loving kiss. Thank you.
Now, it turns out Henry's business deals away in London town
Are suffering from cash
he
flow.
informed her with a frown.
And although a positive outcome is most certainly assured, I'm at a loss to know how I can swiftly move things forward.
The solution surely obvious as even she could see. She instructed her solicitor and the money moved with speed, but more was very quickly needed.
It's the cash flow, there's the thing.
So he secured her open checkbook with the token of a ring.
Just 3 more weeks, my darling, and we'll finally be wed.
But his thoughts were not of married bliss, but something else instead.
The days they wound so slowly down.
Too slow, too slow.
For her, the dress was made, the church was booked, the carriage, the chauffeur. The morn arrived, the bride arrayed in beauty. In her bower, she'll soon be at the church, the aisle, be wed within the hour.
Just then, with everything in place, the carriage at the door, the butler enters in the room, his eyes cast to the floor. The groom is gone, not to be found, but other news there is. Some business letters have been found, and the signature is his.
Dear Henry is her brother's friend. They've played her for a fool. They stole her money and her heart. Her love has been their tool. Her breath is caught, all time stands still. The room seems like a cage, but initial fear calms down into a hard and cool, cool rage.
She drew the curtains firmly shut and stopped the clocks right then. At 20 to 9, all hands were stilled, reminding her of men and love and falsity, of all that she had lost. Through days and weeks and months and years, she totals up the cost.
With decades past and moved by wrath or loneliness or both, Miss Havisham hits upon a plan and to her lawyer spoke. A young girl was adopted and brought into the rooms where all was dark and time stood still. But inevitably soon from Havisham she learns that life is cruel and justice dead and love can crush and burn.
With every... Sorry, I ruined your dramatic effect.
And life can crush and burn. Thank you.
With every day that passes, she fulfills her purpose more, not as a woman or a daughter, but an instrument of war.
You are grown, Estelle, and pretty, as the men can clearly see. Soon our fight begins in earnest, so dear, listen close to me. Make them love you, Estelle, love you body, spirit, heart and mind. Then you'll crush them underfoot and move on and leave behind a trail of devastation. And remember as you go, love is foolishness and weakness, that much certainty we know.
Had she substituted that word love with hate, despair or worse, she could not have made its meaning any clearer as a curse.
No sooner had Estelle her preparation thus received than Miss Havisham the first test of her powers had conceived. An innocent young local lad from close nearby was brought, and Estelle practised upon him all that she had been taught. She was merciless and beautiful, and his fragile heart she seized. Came the whisper from behind her,
Make him love you.
on the breeze. Before too long, this young boy Pip was broken from his play, and from his humble home to deepest London sent away. A mysterious benefactor demanded this ascent. Great expectations beckoned, and young Pip to school was sent to learn gentlemanly manners, but a shock arose because only later did young Pip learn that the benefactor was
An entirely different story. But pertaining to our tale, though many miles were parting them, Pip's high love did not fail, and he often thought of Estelle, dreaming lingering hours through. But to win her love and favour, he did not know what to do. Estelle, meanwhile, after finishing school, a social whirl began, and was noticed and regarded by each and every man.
as intended. She left broken hearts aplenty in her wake. All the presents, gifts and compliments, all these she'd gladly take. And they would love her and she'd know it, and she'd simply turn and leave. Not for one man was she sorry, not for one heart could she grieve. Meanwhile, in dark and timeless rooms, Miss Haversham remains, and in a deepening pool of loneliness, she questions her cruel games, and longs for love and company, and questions pride and hate, and ponders now a change of course, alas. Alas, too late, a stray spark from the roaring fire, the seats are gathered round, leaps up and out, and sets ablaze the ancient wedding gown!
While her damaged body lies awaiting death, Our Lady finds that visions past and future pour into her tortured mind. The faces crowd around her, and the shadows dance around, and though she flees the accusations, still no hiding place is found.
Well, look at me, my mother. Are you happy with me now? Are you proud of your creation? Go on, stand up, take a bow. I am empty of emotion. I can't love if I try. And I'm so sick of life I'd weep, but I'm just not sure I can cry.
Spoke the butler, flanked by shadows, with his eyes cast to the floor.
There's a gentleman to see you, miss. He's waiting at the door.
There are lives that have been broken. Many wounds are slow to heal. I count my own among them just because I dare to feel. Do you think your actions righteous? Do you think your war is just? Do you really hold the human heart as no more than ash and dust?
Came the butler and the shadows, moving now across the floor.
There's a gentleman to see you, miss. He's waiting at the door.
How she prays these things are products of her tired and fevered mind, but she feels the shadows take her arms, and their touch is not kind, and these final words she hears as she is drawn across the floor.
The gentleman is ready now. He'll see you at the door.
So, that's our tale of Haversham. Thus ends the final page of a woman who submitted to her bitterness and rage. As we've told you, and we've shown you, in her anger and her pride, there are crimes and sins that match the violence on the streets outside.
We trust we've entertained you, that your wait was not in vain, that you'll profit from considering another person's pain. When your own short life is over, when you're standing on the brink, will you walk across with confidence, or will something in you shrink? Though you may not be a thief or be a murderer or such, it's well that you'll consider that like Haversham there's much that is evil within our own plentiful thoughts, such as anger, pride and jealousy, these small and simple faults.
No more we'll talk and keep you, and we bid you all farewell, but here's a final question upon which you'll benefit to dwell. Are you guiltless? When your time comes, when you move across the floor, can you answer to the gentleman who's standing at the door? Thank you.